You want to change the light or?
No, it's fine. This is what happens when I, tune in and set things up. It's like, shoo.
Yeah, and just, oh, this content is now sent to YouTube, so we should be live there. Um, I like to give 30 seconds to make sure everything is working. So how are you?
I'm in a wonderful energy. It's really wonderful to see you again. And thank you for setting up this time for us to have a little bit of a deeper chat about what we're up to.
Absolutely. So Anais, it has been a busy week for you, but it will get even busier from the first day as you are starting your course, 8 weeks course. But before we get to that, what it is and for who, could you share a little more about just what we discussed before the recording around
Yeah.
what comes up with people living in some worry state and fear and feeling like, am I ready to take the decision? Is this good for me? Or versus, and what comes with it when we stay in that frequency of worrying?
Yes. So the way that I like to share this environment with people so that they feel it as well as think about it is when we have been in a trauma bond since early childhood. We know from your documentary that your trauma bond began when you were 2 years old. My trauma bond began when I was 5 years old. And what I'm encouraging people to understand is to shift from the why me? Why did that happen to me? Why did those circumstances prevail in my life? Because that actually feeds the system of separation, which is what we're living in. We're living in an open air concentration camp now. And when you feel that, oh, oh, I'm brave enough, I'm strong enough to feel, to remember, to discover all the information in the trauma bond that I'm actually in the process of releasing. And I call what happens, most people are walking around in what I call a state of spiritual Alzheimer's. They don't remember who they are or why they're here or where they came from or where they go after they leave their bodies. They have no idea about any of this. This is spiritual Alzheimer's. So the work that I do is experiential. It's not a university course. Although I have stuff online, you can, it's all organized for people who do work with me. But where we go is experiential. So what we're hoping to have a conversation about right now is when you've done some of the work and you're actually feeling that space in between, I feel better. And, I'm not as freaked out as I have always been. And I'm less depressed and I don't cry all the time. And I don't feel like my nervous system going like this several times a day. Because that's the energetics of your whole energy field when you're still in active trauma bond. Your consciousness can now touch it. And you can go, ooh, but you can touch it again for longer periods of time and feel it. And as you do that, you're actually strengthening your emotional body and your neurocircuitry and your emotional intelligence. It's all strength building. And in many instances, it's strength building with a lot of resentment and being pissed off. Like, why do I have to go through this? And that experience is really sort of the place where we build the bridge for going from being in your trauma bond, understanding what it is, working your way out of it, being less triggered, but still having that space where even when you become a coach, you're tapping into that energy field part of you, which is like sticky particles of light in your total body. It's at a cellular level. And the more you open and trust and become discerning about, wait a minute, I got to check you out. Wait just a minute. I'm stopping right here until I really can feel that you're someone that I can trust for whatever reason. Could be for any number of reasons. In my life, it's always been sort of creative and working with clients and understanding where they're coming from. So we had a great chat. It was last week with a group around, and many of the people in the group were coaches. And one of the things that we are hoping to sort of paddle our way toward as we're paddling our way through these emotional waters that run very deep is, how do I do that without having to go through my story every time with the sound of me really showing up when I speak so that it resonates and people can feel it. That's another process, especially if you're coaching, because there's a place where you meet the people who come to you for coaching. You need to meet them where you are, where they are. You have to build, that's bridge number one. And then you build the second bridge, which is, all right, this is great. Let's go a little further. Just a little bit. Come with me, come with me, come with me. Into that space where you're releasing the trigger points, the trauma bond, the energy of that from your cells, let alone your emotional body and your neurocircuitry. You literally can release this from your atomic cellular material. When that happens, and that's a process, and that's the work that I do with clients and students, you go into the reversal of spiritual Alzheimer's, which means that now you remember who you are and who you've always been. And you have a perspective on this very, very difficult, for most people, super difficult journey to do that reversal process where you really feel and you relax into remembering who you are and you trust that. So that's the second bridge. Now I'm going to leave that there and let you respond to that, because this is the experiential space that happens in a room, that happens in an environment where it's set up very carefully for people to come in and do their micro adjustments around trust. Huge. So what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, my thoughts are that they don't need to do it alone. That's the trauma bond. It always works with somebody. Like the second person is necessary, and we as a human weren't created to exist alone and do it all by ourselves. And when we go through trauma, we develop this state of I rely only on me because nobody was there. So having it now, creating that bridge with therapist, coach can be healing, and all the work you mentioned on the micro energy level can be undone. But for somebody who just has no idea about, like who hears it and is like skeptical around energy, could you
Mm-hmm.
share a little
Sure,
how to
sure,
see it? Mhm.
sure. When I first started teaching this in 1993, and people came and I had a group, we started as a small group. We met every 6 weeks or so for a week. We spent an entire week together to do the work. And at that time, I broke things down very simply in terms of starting the work first with the emotional body and correlating what the experience of feeling your emotions, correlating that to the 7 embodied chakras. That was a great foundational place for people to begin because they could feel the energy, but they needed to know more. And they needed to be able to go, okay, let's feel this. That's the energy of your first chakra. That's the frequency. And they could feel that. And then they had a frame of reference. But I also talked about the feelings that people were processing at that time: fear, shame, guilt, judgment. Yeah. And the energetic states of what's going on in your root chakra, which is either freeze, play dead, or try to escape if you can, the flight mode. So we started with those very basic connect the dots between, when you're feeling judged. And then we could correlate, well, where does that feeling of being judged live in your body? Where does it connect to a specific chakra that you can feel? That really usually had to do with some very obvious form of relationship that was distorted, where you were judging yourself or you were judging someone else because of the primary dysfunction of the system of separation, which you described very well. It's the trauma bond that puts you in the place, I have to go it alone. I can't trust anyone else. I have to take care of me. No one else is going to do that. Those are the hallmarks of fundamental, that's the foundation of the system of separation. When you're in that place, you can't come human to human in joy, in creative flow, in transparency, in imagination, in what I call your birthright bliss, so that you are always able to cycle back around to your brilliant resilience, which is what knowing what your energy field brings you to when you have the foundation laid. So when I started doing that in 1993, nobody else was doing this work. I mean, maybe I knew of Carolyn Neese. She had just gotten started. I met Deepak Chopra when he was just getting started. So now there's been a lot of prep work. There's been a lot of creating the space and expanding it for people to show up where they are and have the opportunity to feel the guilt, shame, blame, judgment. Ask the why me question and then snap out of it with help. Those are all energy dynamics that we need to be released from, one by one, and sometimes in combination. So this is work I've been doing since 1993.
So it has been 31 years. Yeah, 32.
It's 33 years this year, really, because my
30.
awakening happened in 1991. So I've been at this a long time. And it's interesting that I have to continue to share that foundation that I built when there wasn't a foundation almost anywhere else in the world for this. And privileged, ask me, like, how much of a blessing was that? Huge blessing. And I just kept saying yes, because I had chosen with my wounding that happened at 5. I made the narcissist choice too, which is, okay, nobody's watching out for me. Nobody cares. Nobody sees me. Nobody hears me. Nobody's paying any attention in a way that feels good to me. The day that I almost drowned, I sat on the steps of the pool where this incident happened. And I said, okay, kid, you got to take care of yourself. Your family's not going to do this with you, for you. So those decisions are devastating. And they set up a cascade of events and renew choices around a core structure that is distorted because of the trauma. Okay? How can you relate to this? I'd like to hear how you relate to this, because you have so much that you bring to your work and to this story in your life.
Yep. Yeah, I'm more interested. I'm open to share, but I'm also more interested how somebody, because you mentioned there are people who keep coming for the last over 33 years asking the same questions.
Not the same people.
Not, but the same questions, different people. I had this feeling like, but I'm not sure around, are they the same questions, or what consciously have you seen change?
Yes. What I've seen change is that there are now people like you in the world, your age, who are doing all of this so much faster. And they're recognizing more quickly, oh, wait a minute, this isn't about me. I'm not screwed up. I'm not broken. I'm living on a planet where all of these patterns are set up intentionally. And so people are starting to ask slightly different questions, which is fantastic. For me, those questions are about how do I co-create with somebody else? How do I collaborate? How do we spread a new ripple across the entire pond that has the system of separation shaking its own tree? And the way that it shows up that it's doing that is it disrupts our technology. It interferes with how we're doing our work. That's how I know that things are changing, and they're changing fast. Yay for us.
Yeah, and right, and for the technology, that it's all working, wanting to work together. And this show is around how to create the bridge between ask, listen, and receive.
Right. One of the things I've observed over this time of working with lots of people around the world is when you are trauma bonded and your energy field becomes distorted and you don't know how to work with it consciously. And there are all kinds of modalities for doing that. The way I do it is just one way that happens to be very effective and usually pretty fast. You have lost your connection to your own core, which has the natural grace. Well, let me just ask. Let me ask what's really happening here. This is part of my program. I don't assume, I don't hide, I don't shut my mouth, right? I ask. I ask inside, I ask outside. What's really going on here? Why do I feel, okay? I never have to question why I feel fabulous, why I feel joyful, why I feel happy. That's never an issue. And so the bridge is, how do we reconnect energetically to all of the parts of you? So you come out of spiritual Alzheimer's. You remember how to ask. Then you remember in the asking, you're going to be ready to listen for an answer, right? Yeah. And when you have done the ask and you have done the listening, that works through your energy body from the highest level of sound. Because when we ask, we're doing it from the energy space of sound. We're not asking from light or from mind. We're asking from heart. Okay? And then that translates into, when you're ready to listen, the rest of your body is now paying attention with you. And when that happens, you set up an energetic framework to receive, because that is the natural state of being. We should always be ready to receive and share and ask and give and listen. When we're in the dynamics that you have so beautifully delineated clearly in Exposé, the red flags, all the stories of the 88 people, you can see the pattern. The pattern becomes very visible, because while the stories are unique, they're also very much the same. So that's the bridge that we're building. When we have that awareness, ask, listen, receive, that elevates our frequency and our vibration, which is a natural energetic process. And that opens up into the flowering to come out of spiritual Alzheimer's and to remember who you are. That we call empowerment. Some people call that mindset change. It is what it is. It depends on where you're coming from in your genetics and what's in your DNA template. Because there are all of these beautiful, I really do liken it to a kaleidoscope. And every time you turn a kaleidoscope, you see a different design. And that's what happens with us when we do our work. We start to see the different designs, who we really are. Make sense?
Because truly we are unlimited. So it's just going, and when we start to do that uncovering and learning, it's like this is not me, this is not me, I'm all of it and more. And then you realize, what if, we really were all one, like one body stuck in different, one something stuck in different bodies. And then the division in our mind created the separation from love. And that's why through the judgment, we are not able to see each other and hear then at the result of our own feelings. And that's, yeah.
Yeah. The beauty of the awakening process, which is what this is, when you come out of spiritual Alzheimer's, you're awakening to all of who you are. And when we do this together, we create safe spaces for this. And there are people like you have set up with Exposé, a safe space for people to have, oh my gosh, we can talk about this now, right? So you do that. And then the asking, listening, and receiving happens in waves. Waves. Waves of awareness. Waves of awareness, like the ocean kissing the shore. And you can see that where you live, which is great. And every wave that comes in and touches the shore is connected to all the rest of the ocean. And the shore is where we meet. The shore is where we meet. And whatever happens there is what each of us needs so that we actually receive what we need. Wave after wave after wave. Teachers, guides, coaches, they become part of that wave because they've cleared the trauma bond and they can come right on in and touch the shore where you are. Tickle your toes. Come on in, the water's great. Come on in, this is a bay, you're safe, right? And I believe really so much of what we're doing is actually about the experience of living water because we're 70% water. And when we open up space with each other that way, and that includes tears and includes laughter, we're setting an even more empowered foundation for us to meet each other. And as you describe it, be one. We are one. We're all those little chits in the kaleidoscope that turn, and it's always a new design. When people feel that in their bodies, it's incredibly powerful and beautiful. They get it.
Yeah, I really like when you said, "Come in, the water is safe."
That was hard for me because of my near drowning.
Mm.
The water was not safe. It
Wow.
is now.
So there can be the opposite of whatever you felt. You can have the total opposite of it.
I just made a video in the last couple of days where I described to people how I described the drowning event in my life and the decision that I made because of that event and the terror that I was in. And this past month, I've been clearing that terror still alive in my cells because I needed to reach a certain vibration and frequency to be able to have the conversation of ask, listen, and receive from my own cellular material. This is really over time, took time for me. When I was ready to face the terror, just the pure terror of being in the water over that was deep, over could be over my head. I joined a swim club and I took the baby class. So I learned how to float in a class with 6-month-old babies, 9-month-old babies. And I described that experience. It's like, that's humility. That's vulnerability. When you can take your fear into that kind of an environment with no shame, it's like, I need to be here.
The unlearning. Uh,
The unlearning and the learning something new that you're missing because the experience was distorted.
mm. And that betrayal. Yeah, the betrayal, of your own mother, and then just, having that without knowing anything yet,
Mhm.
from the world, and thinking that's some in some way thinking that's what it is, having that even reality that had to be oh so stressful in every way and unsafe to just be who you are. So I can see how you had to step away and protect and show only so little of you to her, to your mother, so you could survive.
Mhm.
But then ultimately, how that's not our responsibility to do anything for our parents, and how it's the opposite, how sometimes stepping away and doing our own healing can be the only way to
It very often is the only way because so few adults are willing to be in the vulnerable space with their children that says, I failed you. I'm responsible. I failed you. And I mean, those are conversations I've had with my kids. And that's part of the generational, that's why things are going faster now, right?
Mm.
So also being aware of the ancestral damage that my own mother had been exposed to, that she had no way, she had absolutely no way to work that out in her family. Her family, her childhood was just absolutely strictly about survival, food on the table.
Yeah, but that still doesn't change the fact that you were deprived so many things which they should be there, and it doesn't take away. Sometimes those stories they want to minimalize our pain or like make it's not so bad because of this is what she went through. No, no, no. Uh, let's go for what it was, okay? Because the pain was real, the tears, the shock, the panic was real, and we want to truly see it, not to traumatize, but just to see that part of us who felt really abandoned to take care of her in 100% without, you know, even a blink of minimalization.
So the joy of what I do, because I talk about the third way energy, the system of separation is binary code. It's zeros and ones. 0 plus 1 is always going to be 1. It's never going to expand. It's never going to become 2 or 3 or 4. 0 plus 1 is 1. This is the code that we're living in. We live in binary code. And so the very limitation of you bring another energy in and it's a zero energy, it's not going to change the 1. That's a really difficult shift because I talk about coming into the third way, which is 1 plus 1 equals 3, which is the energy of creativity, creation, and union. This is a really very different kind of conversation. So I also talk about discernment. For me, discernment has 4 pillars. The first most important is emotional neutrality. And when you can achieve it, intellectual neutrality, so that you're open to new ideas. You're not just rerunning ideas that you've learned in school or you heard from your parents. You're open to new ideas. The second pillar is compassion. So while I'm not going to allow the challenges and the ancestral damage that my whole lineage, especially women, have gone through, it doesn't eliminate my compassion for that is what they went through. I have compassion for that. Doesn't minimize what I've gone through at all. The third pillar, when you have neutrality and you have compassion, now you have wisdom. When you have neutrality, compassion, wisdom, now you can feel and sense the vibration of truth. And this is where discernment puts you on the path to trust. Because when you're meeting people and you've got those 4 pillars in place, you know, in the blink of an eye, like, that's a no. Or, that's a yeah, right? That's the energy work. And it's really a process. And it is 1 plus 1, which is the coaching relationship, or 1 and many equals more than 1, always.
Yes, and this first day, you have this course, 8 weeks of not just group work, but
Mhm.
also one-on-one. Would you like to share a little more um, for who it is designed this course and what people can, I always have this question, but what people can expect after they finish the 8 weeks?
Well, first of all, the whole notion of expect is part of the system of separation. because it wipes out spontaneity. If I tell you what to expect, I've limited you. I'm not going to do that. I don't do that to people that I work with. You come as you are. The group energy will transform you. How much? What? All of that is unique to you, but you're going to be in a safe space where I'm not going to put a limitation on you or allow you to put a limitation on me of having an expectation. What happens is the transformation, and it's the result. And it happens experientially, and people usually, the experience that they end up having is, well, I got way more than I thought I would, because the limitation hasn't been placed in either direction. And more importantly, this is the really important part, a limitation has not been put on the creative energy in the environment. Right? Because we're all walking around with, well, you don't expect anything from source. Like, this is here, this is all you can expect. So like, don't set yourself up for, oh, what the heck if you receive more? What's that feel like? It's beautiful. So my course is designed to bring people into a safe environment to look at the patterns that I call just simply your origin story, and to really view it with specificity and clarity and lots of space for your emotions to be whatever they are, so that you rediscover yourself. That's what it's about. And so we meet once a week for 2 hours for 8 weeks. And in between, there are cognitive things for people to do and work on their own that they can do as much or as little as they want, because then you become accountable for your own experience. And I incorporate, this is only limited to 12 people. That's all I'm willing to give that much expansion to, for me to hold that space for this kind of really deep work. So 12 people, and then on the course of the 8 weeks, everybody in the group gets a 1 hour private one-on-one coaching with me, because things come up that they weren't expecting. And then they need support for that. And that's it's part of the genius of what I do and how I do it. And I've been doing it for a long time. So hopefully that's enough for people. But one of the things that I do want to share is, because of this developing relationship with Anastasia, we have a co-resonance. I mean, she has touched something very, very, very deep and pure and powerful in a really unique and wonderful way. And she's building community around this, while I'm building community around the rainbow, which is the brilliant resilience, and really feeling and remembering who you are and your birthright bliss. We have created a bridge. Her work is her work, my work is my work. But there's a coherence, there's a co-resonance. And so I do, because of the nature of the work that she's doing, I'm got a very, very special offer for people who are interested, because what I'm aware of is, when you're dealing with this level of distress and trauma bonding and betrayal, your life is unstable. And this can include your financial life, and where you live, and how you live, and do you have a car, and this is instability at its finest. And so I do have a very special offer for people who want to find out more. And we can put the information in the chat. I have that ready to go. But it's a really, really, really very generous price. And I hope that it's only limited to 12 people. So, and we're coming into the end of 2024. And being in this program will set you up for remembering who you are, why you're here, what you're all about for 2025. Powerful.
That was Anaiis Salles. Thank you, Anais. I will add those links, and thank you for your generosity and creating that 8 weeks uh, program, which can be, what does it feel like the end of the year, but the beginning of something bigger than what time ever created
Mhm.
for the soul, um, to have more freedom and to be more trusting. And like you said, no expectations, whatever.
It's really up to, we each are accountable for what we do with all of who we are. And I want to bring up, because of what's happened in the last couple of days, we've been through massive energy shifts. And one of those has been Hurricane Helene hitting the part of the United States that it hit. That is no accident. I want to be very clear about that. That is co-creative energy. That's the energy of source coming in and saying, some parts of the slates of this country that are founded on really, really distorted dynamics, that all needs to be wiped clean. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to change people's lives. It's going to bring them together because they're going to need to come together to survive. This is the process that we go through individually in small group on the scale of 5 states in the United States. So I want people to be aware of, when you come in to this environment, you are tapping into that massive energy to meet you where you are. And when you ask and you listen and you tune in from here, the receiving will be very different from what happened in Helene. That's how it works. Because you're now moving into self-love. You're literally moving into even if it's only a little bit conscious, different kind of frequency vibration with nature. And nature will kick your ass. Okay, we've all seen that. Nature can really kick your ass. And my suggestion is, have a different relationship with nature so nature doesn't have to kick your ass, either through a hurricane or a really terrible disease or an accident or whatever. Those are all functions of the system of separation. Don't have to go there. You can say, oh, no thanks. And yes, please, I'll have more of that. Thank you.
So you really help people get to that state wherever they need to be. So what it does, it makes me think like it creates more space that they can actually decide if they want more of something or no to things, even before they come physically.
Mhm. And trusting yourself so you can feel where you need a pause. The pauses are really important. I need to stop right now. I need to rest. I need to integrate. I need to not make any new choices at this time because I'm changing. And my kaleidoscope is turning, and there's going to be a new design, and I don't know what that is yet. And I need to be patient, and I need to rest, and I need to trust what will be the new, and I don't know what that is yet. So there's so many energy spaces, and the energy spaces are actually quite simple. Push, pull, stop, pause. Um, Chaos and entanglement. I mean, those are really the basics. That's what we learn how to do.
Is there anything else would you like to add to this space before we finish?
The one thing that I would add to this space is when you come to Anastasia, to come Exposé, to Groomed, when your frequency matches with something that is going to be a healing cocktail for your trauma bond, say yes when you can. Ask, listen, receive, and trust that you'll be able to meet the moment. And then quite literally, the money will show up. I mean, this is part of the ask, listen, and receive. I can't tell you how many times I've had those miracles in my life where I'm like, how am I going to do this? And like, boom, here it comes through the door. So there's that. But let yourself begin this process of trusting all of who you are and learning to feel. It's a feeling experience. It's a feeling embodied experience when you trust yourself. And I wish that everyone on this planet would have that experience for their entire lives and know how to reclaim it and enjoy it.
And as you were speaking this, about some limitation, we might choose to focus on. I who came to me was Grace, and
Mhm.
she messaging me, which I mentioned to you yesterday, that she was curious about what you would think. But I think this interview is an answer somewhere around, like, yes, if you are going through some survival situation and you are aware that you are in a survival mode because of, people, circumstances, going through divorce can be really, with a narcissistic person can be hard, and finances with it too, right? And you've been through it too. So, but then we have that choice, like, okay, you know, am I going to listen to this interview? Am I actually going to reach out? Um, that's really what each and every has to respond individually. And that's, that I think that's the balance between somewhere you giving and then, okay, now is the time to receive. And then when you give, it's like double. Yeah, there is this double energy of like, um, yeah.
It's miraculous. I mean, I we don't have the time, but when I first had this little idea, tiny little idea, that I wanted to work with burn patients, I didn't have any clarity around that. And I just kept listening and asking. And when I tell you that the universe set everything up for me to have that experience, working alongside doctors in hospitals in Moscow, Russia, didn't know a soul, didn't speak the language, went with my own money because I had taught workshops on energy healing. And my heart was, just do it. Just do it. And I trusted. And what happened was miraculous on so many levels. Really, truly, and medically validated as miraculous in some instances with the people I worked with. I had to let go. I had to let go of, I can't do this. I can't afford it. How would I get? We were still in Cold War with Soviet Union. Um, all of those things could have become barriers to me becoming more and realizing more of who I am. And I just let go and let it happen. Got out of the way. Yeah, those are fun moments.
It sounds like a cool journey you've been on. And there is this story about those women living in Tibet, those nuns, who, when you talk to them, they feel like they're a tree. That they actually are so rooted and grounded And you remind me of one. We never met in person, but it reminded me one of those women who are very rooted and grounded. And is it like were you born this way, or is this you as you were on the journey of learning from those teachers in Russia, and if yes, if you learned that somewhere?
It all came from in here.
Mhm.
I wasn't taught anything in Russia. I took what I knew in here to Russia and shared it. Absolutely astonishing story. I mean, I made a documentary about it. But the, the thing is, until you say yes and listen and ask and receive and give, you remain in this closed little box. And at some point, the pain of that becomes unbearable. It does. It just does. If it can take years, but it becomes unbearable. That's your soul saying, hey, really? Come on. Wouldn't you really like to know who you really are and what you're capable of? And not have there be a mystery or an expectation that your family put on you? It's not you. Come on, let's go.
So it is really a once journey, and you proved that it can be safe. Because it sounds crazy when you think like going somewhere to different country,
Uh-huh.
different language.
Uh-huh.
It feels like
Uh-huh. And when the Soviet Union was collapsing and there wasn't food and people were in bread lines and it was all over the news, and my family was like, you're doing what? I'm like, I'm going. I went for 6 weeks the first time. Amazing. The doctors were like, you can't leave. We need you here. You can't leave. Like, I've got kids. I'm leaving. Gotta go. Will you come back? Absolutely. And I went again the second year, and I took additional American healers with me who needed and wanted that experience. And then I went for a third time. And the co-creation that we created was part, in a small way, of kind of stopping the Cold War. The third year that I was there, I went to St. Petersburg. And it was the 30th anniversary of the Cuban Missile Crisis, where we almost blew each other up, Russia and the United States. I was in the living room in St. Petersburg with a Russian family, watching on TV all the information about the Cuban Missile Crisis. And we were safe. We hadn't gone to war. We hadn't blown each other up. Don't underestimate what it is that you co-create. Please don't underestimate it.
so that's how they say how that's how the Cold War was. That's the reason why it ended. Cold War. It was somewhere energetically. I mean, this is not a joke I'm saying right now. I'm smiling, but it is, you know, and how
Yep, there
much.
were a lot of people who were willing to do something new. Beautiful.
Yeah, and even what you said with the hurricane, how those waves will come is a natural way of responding to people being in disagreements.
Yeah, we gotta learn. We gotta learn
Listen.
how to be in union. This is the big final exam here on this planet. Yeah, and we can do it. That's the part that I really want to stress, is that we're capable of it.
Um, Anais, you spoke around all those topics, and there is this one I typed yesterday, but I think you responded to it, like how to receive intentionally more, how to receive more intentionally. But I think you dived into it already.
We skim the surface of it. I mean, it really is a practice, but you kind of have to know that there's even a door to open and walk across into a new space.
Well, thank you, Anais, for painting that door and your course starting this Thursday. Thank you, everyone. You can see the link if you are watching on YouTube live. Check the link in the description, which I will attach after the live ends. Will end. And if you're watching on Facebook, you can see the link in the chat, and you can reach out directly to Anais. If you have any questions, also I offer my help. If there is anything you want to ask me specifically as Anais, yes, offer this great offer for people who are supporting, sharing story, and gathering in a space of being able to receive each other. And yeah, so excited for you. Thank you, everyone, and looking forward to Thursday. First, because yes, it's your course, and also we have the premiere
And
of the
I will see you at 4. I will be there.
right with the third on the open panel of the third episode, Unmasking Abuse, and breaking the silence. Yeah.
Let me say thank you to everybody who puts their eyeballs on this information. Let me say thank you again to Anastasia for her courage and her focus and the energy that she embodies. And it's a joy to connect and work with her. And I like to imagine if I had a daughter, which I never did get to have, that she might be like you. It would be amazing. Yeah.
Da-da-da-dum, and she cried. And this is after the break.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anais, for your words. And you know, yeah, it's amazing how, you grow up and you find, you know, you choose kind of your family too in a
Yeah,
different way. And it doesn't mean it's more or less important. It's just different. And
it's just
it's,
different.
yeah, there's no need to put any priorities. But it's good it is, because, it's just makes your life so much better in every way. So makes the life really, good to live,
Rich, juicy.
rich. Yeah.
There's so much more imagination and creativity, and that's who we are.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll see you on Thursday. And I'm excited to be in that next step that you're in because you just built something so beautiful.
Mm.